The morning shift bell rang across the massive orbital scrapyard, and Daewon wiped the grease from his hands. He had been working in this place for 3 years now, fixing broken ships and sorting through endless piles of metal junk. The scrapyard floated above Viridian Prime, a busy trading planet where aliens from dozens of worlds came to do business. Humans like Daewon were rare here, but his skills with machines had earned him a job. Daewon walked through the rows of destroyed starships and broken equipment. His boss Torfus waved at him with 2 of his 4 arms. The Velcrin stood nearly 8 feet tall with purple skin and eyes that could see in multiple directions at once. New shipment came in last night, Torfus said in the common galactic language. Sort through it. Tag anything worth selling. Crush the rest. Daewon nodded and headed toward the new section. He had been a Navy engineer once back when Earth fought in the human-Telvari War. But that was 5 years ago. Now he just wanted a quiet life fixing things. The war had taken too much from him already. The new shipment was mostly garbage. Broken freighters, damaged mining equipment, and pieces of destroyed military vessels. Daewon moved through them with practiced eyes, marking the items with electronic tags. This one could be sold for parts. That one was worthless scrap. He had done this 1,000 times before. Then he saw something strange. Buried under 3 layers of newer junk was an old starship. Very old. The metal was dark and covered in rust, but the design was different from anything Daewon had ever seen. Most ships had smooth curves or sharp military angles. This one had both, blended in ways that seemed almost organic. Strange symbols covered parts of the hull, barely visible under the decay. Daewon climbed closer. The ship was about the size of a small frigate, maybe 60 meters long. The engines were unlike any modern design. He ran his hand along the hull, feeling the cold metal under his fingers. The symbols began to glow. Daewon jumped back, his heart racing. The faint blue light spread across the markings like water flowing uphill. Then just as quickly it faded. He looked around to see if anyone had noticed, but the other workers were far away, busy with their own tasks. He touched the hull again. The same thing happened. The symbols glowed blue, responding to his touch. Daewon's mind raced. This was not normal. This was not any technology he recognized. And he had studied ship designs from 100 different species during his Navy days. A door panel appeared in the hull, where none had been visible before. It slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a dark interior. Daewon knew he should report this to Torfus. But something made him climb inside instead. The interior was dusty and dark. Daewon pulled out his work light and swept it around. The design was beautiful. The walls had patterns that seemed both decorative and functional. Control panels lined one wall, all dark and dead. In the center was a command chair built for someone roughly human-sized. He sat down in the chair and the ship came alive. Lights flickered on throughout the vessel. Holographic displays materialized in the air around him, showing symbols and diagrams he could not read. A central column rose from the floor in front of the chair, projecting a 3-dimensional star map. But what shocked Daewon most was the feeling. The ship felt aware, not fully conscious, but something close, like it was waking up after a very long sleep. One holographic panel showed what looked like a scanning beam running over Daewon's body. Then words appeared, not in any language he knew, but somehow he understood the meaning. Biometric match confirmed. Primary operator recognized. Systems initializing. Daewon's hands shook. This ship had been waiting for a human, or for someone like a human. But that was impossible. Humans had only been in space for 200 years. This ship looked thousands of years old. He spent the next hour exploring. Most systems were offline or damaged, but the basic structure was intact. The engines, when he examined them, worked on principles he had never seen. The power core was some kind of contained reaction he could not identify. Even the hull material was strange, tougher than modern military-grade armor despite its age. Finally, Daewon climbed back outside. He tagged the ship in the system as unsalvageable scrap. Recommend immediate crushing. Then he went to find Torfus. That big dark ship in Section 7, Daewon said casually. It's completely dead. Ancient junk. But the hull metal might be worth something. How much would you sell it to me for? Torfus laughed, his translator turning it into a series of clicking sounds. You want to buy scrap? Humans are strange. Give me 500 credits and haul it away yourself. 500 credits was nearly everything Daewon had saved in 3 years, but he transferred the money without hesitation. By the end of the day, he had arranged for a cargo hauler to move the ship to a private hangar he rented on Viridian Prime's industrial moon. The hangar was small and cheap, meant for personal storage, but it would hide the ship from curious eyes. That night, Daewon could not sleep. He kept thinking about the glowing symbols and the way the ship had recognized him. He thought about the ancient design and the impossible technology. Somewhere in the galaxy's history, someone had built this ship, someone who looked enough like humans that the ship accepted him as its operator. The next morning, he called in sick to work. Then he took a shuttle to the industrial moon and entered his rented hangar. The old ship sat there in the dim light, dark and silent. But when Daewon approached, the symbols began to glow again. He smiled. He had spent years in the scrapyard, watching humanity struggle for respect among the great alien empires. Humans were always seen as the newcomers, the young species with crude technology and no real power. Maybe that was about to change. Daewon rolled up his sleeves and opened his toolbox. He had a ship to repair, and something told him this was going to be the most important work of his life. 3 weeks had passed since Daewon brought the ancient ship to his hangar. He barely slept anymore. Every free moment was spent working on the vessel, trying to understand its secrets. The ship's systems were incredibly complex, but they seemed designed to teach their operator. Each time Daewon connected a power line or repaired a circuit, new holographic instructions would appear. He had not told anyone about his discovery. Not yet, but he needed help. Hyojin arrived at the hangar on a Friday evening. She was Daewon's younger sister, a stellar cartographer who worked for a mapping company. She had straight black hair pulled into a practical ponytail and sharp eyes that missed nothing. When she saw the ship, she stopped walking. "What is that?" she asked. "Something impossible," Daewon replied. "Come inside. You need to see this." He showed her everything: the glowing symbols, the holographic displays, the systems that responded to his touch. Hyojin walked through the ship slowly, running her scanner over the walls and taking hundreds of photos. "These symbols," she said finally. "I've seen them before. Not exactly like this, but similar. There are ruins on abandoned worlds out in the frontier sectors, dead planets where something wiped out all life thousands of years ago. The ruins have markings like these." Daewon felt a chill run down his spine. What happened to those worlds? Nobody knows. The surfaces were scorched clean. No radiation, no biological weapons traces, just gone like something erased them. Hyojin touched one of the symbols. "What kind of ship is this, brother?" "I don't know, but I think it's older than any recorded civilization in the galaxy." Over the next 2 weeks, they worked together. Hyojin researched the symbols and compared them to archaeological databases. Daewon continued repairing the ship's systems. The power core was the hardest part. It used some kind of contained reaction that should have been impossible according to modern physics. But when Daewon finally activated it, the entire ship hummed with energy. That was when they called Taeyang. Taeyang had served in the Navy with Daewon during the war. He was a pilot, one of the best. After the war ended, he became a freelancer, taking jobs wherever he could find them. He was tall and thin, with quick reflexes and a constant smile. "You want me to fly what?" Taeyang asked when he arrived. Daewon pointed at the ship. "That? It looks like it should be in a museum. Or a junkyard. It was in a junkyard. Now it's mine, and I need to know if it can fly." Taeyang walked around the ship, examining it with a pilot's critical eye. "The engines are weird. The control surfaces are all wrong. The power signature is off the charts." He paused. "I'll do it." They spent 3 days running system checks. The ship's artificial intelligence was limited but functional. It could not hold conversations, but it could display information and respond to commands. The AI showed them star charts thousands of years old, depicting civilizations that no longer existed. Finally, they were ready for a test flight. Daewon opened the hangar doors and Taeyang took the pilot's seat. Daewon sat beside him, monitoring the systems. Hyojin watched from a safe distance, recording everything. The engines powered up with a sound like distant thunder. The ship lifted smoothly off the hangar floor and drifted out into space. Taeyang tested the controls carefully, getting a feel for the vessel. "It's responsive," he said. "More responsive than anything I've flown. The controls are almost reading my mind." They flew out beyond the moon, away from the traffic lanes. Taeyang pushed the engines harder. The ship accelerated smoothly, faster and faster. They hit speeds that would have torn apart a modern freighter, but the ship barely shook. "This is incredible," Taeyang said. "The inertial dampeners are perfect. I can barely feel the acceleration." Daewon was watching the sensor displays when he noticed something. An asteroid field lay ahead of them, and one of the control panels was lighting up. "What's this?" He touched the panel. A targeting system activated. Holographic crosshairs appeared on the view screen, centering on one of the larger asteroids. Daewon tried to deactivate it, but his hand slipped and hit another control. The ship fired. A beam of pale blue energy lanced out from the ship's bow and struck the asteroid. There was no explosion, no heat flash. The asteroid simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a chunk of rock 300 meters across. The next moment there was nothing but empty space and a faint shimmer of dissipating energy. All three of them sat in shocked silence. "Did we just—" Taeyang could not finish the sentence. Daewon checked the power readings. The weapon had used barely 1% of the ship's energy. A single shot had disintegrated an asteroid, and the ship had not even strained itself. "We need to go back," Hyojin said over the communication link. Now, they flew back to the hangar in silence. After landing, they gathered in the small office space Daewon had set up. "This is a warship," Taeyang said. "An ancient warship with weapons that make modern military technology look like toys. The question is why," Hyojin added. "Why did someone build this? And why did they make it respond to humans?" Daewon had been thinking about that. "The AI showed me something earlier. A vision, almost. Two civilizations at war. Ships like this one fighting across the galaxy. And then, nothing. Everything went dark. The dead worlds," Hyojin said. "What if this ship was part of that war? What if its civilization built it, used it, and then destroyed themselves? The implications were terrifying. This ship was a weapon of mass destruction, left over from a war that had ended thousands of years ago. And now Daewon owned it. 2 days later, their secret ended. A Galactic Enforcement Coalition ship arrived at the industrial moon, broadcasting a priority inspection order. Someone had detected the unusual energy signature from their test flight. The coalition wanted to inspect all vessels in the area. Daewon, Hyojin, and Taeyang held an emergency meeting. "We can't let them see the ship," Taeyang said. "They'll confiscate it immediately. Can we hide it?" Hyojin asked. Daewon had been studying the ship's systems. "Maybe. There's a function I haven't tried yet. The AI calls it stealth mode." When the coalition inspectors arrived at the hangar, they found only empty space and storage crates. The ancient ship had vanished completely, hidden by technology that bent light and sensor waves around itself. The inspectors scanned the hangar, found nothing unusual, and left. After they were gone, the ship reappeared. Daewon stood in front of the vessel, looking at its dark hull and glowing symbols. This was no longer just an interesting project. This was dangerous, powerful, the kind of thing that could change everything. "What do we do now?" Taeyang asked. Daewon thought about humanity's place in the galaxy. Always the junior species, always looked down upon, always powerless. He thought about the war he had fought and all the friends he had lost because human ships were inferior to alien technology. "We learn everything this ship can teach us," he said, "and we figure out how to use it to help humanity. But carefully, very carefully." The ship's holographic displays flickered as if acknowledging his words. In the center screen, a single word appeared in symbols that Daewon now understood. It was the ship's name given to it by its ancient builders, Eternal Vigil, the name of a guardian, the name of a protector, and now it was humanity's secret weapon. The news spread faster than Daewon expected. Despite their precautions, someone had talked. Maybe a worker at the scrapyard, maybe a coalition inspector who saw something suspicious. Within 2 weeks, rumors of a mysterious human-controlled vessel were circulating through the darker corners of the galactic network. Commander Bora contacted Daewon on a secure channel. She was an Earth Navy officer, stationed at the human embassy on Viridian Prime. Daewon had served under her during the war, and she was one of the few people he still trusted. "We need to talk," her message said. "In person. Come alone." They met in a quiet bar in the human quarter of the city. Bora looked older than Daewon remembered. The war had aged them all. "I've been hearing interesting stories," she said quietly, "about a mechanic who found something valuable in a scrapyard. Something that made coalition ships very nervous. Daewon sipped his drink and said nothing. I'm not here to take it from you, Bora continued. I'm here to warn you. Earth's government has been under pressure lately. The Krithari Empire wants more concessions from us. Mining rights. Territory. They're treating us like children who don't deserve a seat at the adult table. They've always treated us that way, Daewon said. Yes, but now they're getting aggressive about it. And if they hear that a human has access to unknown technology, they'll see it as a threat. Bora leaned forward. What did you find, Daewon? He looked at her carefully. Then he told her everything. When he finished, Bora sat back in her chair, her face pale. A precursor warship. Thousands of years old, with weapons that can vaporize asteroids. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Do you realize what this means? If the great powers find out, they'll do anything to take it from you. I know. Then you need to hide it better, or destroy it. I won't destroy it, Daewon said firmly. For the first time, humanity has something that gives us real power. We can't just throw that away. Bora studied him for a long moment. I can't protect you if this goes wrong, but I'll do what I can to buy you time. 3 days later, Hyojin made a breakthrough. She had been working with the ship's database, slowly translating the ancient records. What she found changed everything. The civilization that built this ship, she explained to Daewon and Taeyang. They were called the Inheritors, and they looked almost exactly like humans. Same basic biology, same body structure. That's impossible, Taeyang said. Humans evolved on Earth, I know. But look at these images. Hyojin displayed holographic reconstructions. The Inheritors were humanoid with only minor differences. Slightly taller, different facial features, but unmistakably similar. The database says they built 3 ships like the Eternal Vigil, Hyojin continued. 3 ultimate weapons designed to protect their civilization from any threat. But something went wrong. The Inheritors split into factions. They fought each other, and the war destroyed everything. The Dead Worlds, Daewon said. Yes, the Vigil ships were used as weapons in their civil war, but before the end, the survivors hid the 3 ships. They programmed them to only respond to genetic markers similar to their own. They were hoping that someday another species like them would find the ships and use them wisely. And we're similar enough, Taeyang said slowly. The ship thinks humans are inheritors. Daewon felt a weight settle on his shoulders. So we inherited both their legacy and their responsibility. The political situation grew worse. Ambassador Sung-ho, Earth's chief diplomat in the Galactic Council, sent an urgent message. The Krithari Empire had demanded that all human vessels submit to immediate inspection. They cited security concerns and unauthorized technology development. This is about your ship, Sung-ho's message said. They don't know exactly what you have, but they know something is out there. If you don't surrender it, they're threatening to send military forces to Earth itself. Daewon called an emergency meeting with his crew and Bora. We have 3 choices, Bora said. Surrender the ship and hope they don't hurt us. Run and hide somewhere in the frontier. Or stand and fight. We can't fight the Krithari Empire, Taeyang said. They have hundreds of warships. The Eternal Vigil could probably handle them, Daewon said quietly. Everyone looked at him. The weapons test we did, that was at minimum power. I've been studying the systems. The ship could take on a fleet, but should it? Hyojin asked. Violence is what destroyed the Inheritors. If we use this ship as a weapon of war, we'll just repeat their mistakes. Daewon knew she was right, but he also knew that backing down would confirm humanity's status as a weak species. The great powers would always see humans as inferior unless something changed. What if we don't fight, he said slowly. But we show them we could if we wanted to. Before they could debate the plan, alarms blared. The hangar's sensor systems detected multiple ships entering orbit. Krithari warships. A full squadron, 12 vessels armed for combat. A message came through on all channels. Human vessel Eternal Vigil. This is Krithari Battle Squadron 7. You are ordered to power down and prepare for boarding. Failure to comply will result in your destruction. They know, Taeyang said. Someone told them everything. Daewon ran to the command chair. Hyojin and Taeyang followed him. The ship's systems came online instantly, responding to his urgency. Can we get out of here? Hyojin asked. Daewon checked the tactical display. The Krithari ships were moving into position, surrounding the industrial moon. Their weapons were charging. If we run, they'll catch us in open space, Taeyang said. And they'll definitely fire. Then we don't run, Daewon said. Taeyang, take the pilot controls. Hyojin, monitor the power systems. I'll handle weapons and defense. We're really doing this? Taeyang asked. We're defending ourselves. Nothing more. The Eternal Vigil lifted out of the hangar bay. The Krithari ships immediately opened fire. Plasma bolts and missile streams converged on the ancient vessel. The ship's defensive shields activated automatically. The attacks hit an invisible barrier and dissipated harmlessly. The Eternal Vigil didn't even shake. Holy, Taeyang breathed. Daewon targeted the nearest Krithari ship. He didn't aim for the hull or the engines. Instead, he targeted the weapon system specifically. A precise beam lanced out from the Eternal Vigil and struck the enemy vessel. Its weapons arrays exploded, but the rest of the ship remained intact. Warning shots, Daewon said. We're not here to kill anyone. He repeated the process with 3 more Krithari ships, disabling their weapons with surgical precision. The enemy squadron fell into disarray, unable to understand how their attacks were completely ineffective, while this ancient vessel picked them apart. This is Eternal Vigil to Krithari forces, Daewon broadcast. We are leaving. Do not follow us. We have no desire for violence, but we will defend ourselves. The remaining Krithari ships held their fire, shocked into inaction. Taeyang engaged the engines. The Eternal Vigil accelerated away from Viridian Prime, moving faster than any ship in the Krithari squadron could match. As they jumped to faster than light speed, Daewon looked back at the planet shrinking behind them. They were fugitives now. Humanity's secret was out, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. Where are we going? Hyojin asked. The frontier sectors, Daewon replied. We need time to think. And according to your research, there might be another Vigil ship out there. If we can find it, we'll have more options. The stars stretched into lines as they fled into the unknown. Behind them, news of the encounter spread across the galaxy like wildfire. A human vessel had defeated Krithari warships without breaking a sweat. The weak species suddenly didn't look so weak anymore. And in the halls of power across 100 worlds, leaders began to worry about what humanity might do next. The hidden asteroid base looked abandoned from the outside. It had been a mining station once, decades ago, before the ore ran out. Now it was just another piece of forgotten rock floating in the frontier territories where no government had much control. Daewon guided the Eternal Vigil into the hollowed-out asteroid. They had been running for 2 weeks, staying ahead of search parties and keeping off the major shipping lanes. The ship's stealth systems made them nearly impossible to track, but they couldn't hide forever. Inside the makeshift base, they set up a temporary home. Hyojin converted one of the old mining offices into a research station. Taeyang established a watch rotation and set up early warning sensors. Daewon spent his time diving deeper into the Eternal Vigil systems. On the 3rd day, they received an unexpected visitor. Jiwoo arrived in a small personal transport, broadcasting human identification codes. She was a xenoarchaeologist, someone who studied dead alien civilizations. Hyojin had contacted her secretly, hoping she could help translate more of the ship's records. I've spent 10 years studying the ruins on dead worlds, Jiwoo said as she examined the Eternal Vigil. She was middle-aged, with gray streaking her black hair and excitement lighting up her eyes. I never imagined I'd see an actual inheritor vessel. This is the discovery of a lifetime. Over the next week, Jiwoo worked with the ship's database. She was able to translate far more than Hyojin had managed. The stories she uncovered were both fascinating and terrifying. The inheritors were incredibly advanced, Jiwoo explained one evening as they gathered in the common area. They had faster-than-light travel for thousands of years. They had colonized hundreds of worlds. But they made one critical mistake, and what was that? Daewon asked. They became arrogant. They built the 3 Vigil ships as the ultimate defense, but different factions wanted control of them. Eventually, disagreements about how to use the ships led to civil war. Brother fought brother. Entire worlds were destroyed. And in the end, everyone lost. How did they die out completely? Taeyang asked. According to the records, a small group of survivors realized what they had done. They were horrified by the destruction they had caused. So they hid the 3 Vigil ships in different parts of the galaxy. Then they destroyed all their advanced technology and disappeared from history. Maybe they died out naturally. Maybe they chose to end their civilization rather than continue down that path. The story hung heavy in the air. Daewon understood the warning clearly. The inheritors had possessed ultimate power and it had destroyed them. The database has coordinates, Jiwoo continued. Locations where the other 2 Vigil ships were hidden. I've managed to decode one of them. She displayed a star chart, a system in the outer frontier, far from any major civilization. If we could recover another ship, Taeyang said thoughtfully, we'd have more leverage in negotiations. Or we'd have twice the danger, Hyojin countered. While they debated, news from home arrived. Taeyang's brother Myung sent an encrypted message. Myung was a military strategist working for Earth's defense forces. The message was grim. The Krithari Empire had issued an official ultimatum to Earth. Surrender the Eternal Vigil within 30 days, or face military action. Not just against Daewon, but against Earth itself. They were demanding that humanity prove it was not developing weapons of mass destruction. This is my fault, Daewon said after reading the message. I should have destroyed the ship when I found it. No, Bora's voice came through on a follow-up transmission. This was inevitable. The great powers have always looked for excuses to keep humanity down. If it wasn't the ship, it would have been something else. At least now we have a card to play. What kind of card? Daewon asked. Do we threaten them? Use the ship to attack? That's exactly what they expect. What they're afraid of. A human with a superweapon acting irrationally. Bora paused. But you've been smart so far. You disabled their ships without killing anyone. You showed restraint. That's what makes them uncertain. Myung's voice joined the conversation. I've been running strategic simulations. If we could recover the second Vigil ship, we'd have enough power to force a real negotiation. Not as conquerors, but as equals. Who would operate the second ship? Hyojin asked. Everyone looked at Jiwoo. She blinked in surprise. Me? I'm an archaeologist, not a warrior. The ship responds to human genetics, Daewon said, and you understand the inheritor culture better than any of us. You know what mistakes to avoid. Jiwoo looked terrified and excited in equal measure. If we do this, we need to be very careful. The inheritors fell because they let power corrupt them. We have to be better than they were. The plan came together over the next few days. They would travel to the coordinates Jiwoo had decoded. They would attempt to recover the second Vigil ship, and then they would return to Earth not as fugitives, but as representatives of a humanity that deserved respect. But first, they needed to understand the full extent of their power. Daewon spent days studying the Eternal Vigil's weapon systems. The ship had dozens of different armaments, each more powerful than the last. There were beam weapons that could slice through any known shield, missiles that could track targets across light years, and something the database called a system clearer, a weapon capable of destroying everything in an entire solar system. Why would anyone build something like this? Daewon asked Jiwoo. Fear, she replied. The inheritors were afraid of being destroyed, so they built weapons that could destroy anything. But power like this changes you. It makes you paranoid, makes you see threats everywhere. Eventually, they used these weapons against themselves. Daewon thought about Earth, about humanity struggling to find its place among hostile alien empires, about all the times humans had been dismissed, ignored, or threatened. The Eternal Vigil could solve those problems. One ship could make humanity untouchable, but it could also make humanity into monsters. I need to know, Daewon said. Can I control myself with this much power? Can any of us? That's the question the inheritors never answered, Jiwoo said softly. They trusted their technology, but not themselves. The conversation was interrupted by alarms. Taeyang rushed in from the sensor station. We've got company. Multiple ships just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system. They ran to the Eternal Vigil. The sensors showed 6 vessels approaching, not Krithari this time. These were ships from the Galactic Council itself. The official peacekeeping force. A message came through. This is Council Enforcer Fleet Delta. We have a warrant for the seizure of an illegal precursor vessel. Power down and prepare for boarding. Daewon sat in the command chair. His hands were shaking. They're not giving us a choice. We could run again, Hyojin said. Or we could talk to them, Jiwoo suggested. They won't listen, Taeyang said bitterly. They never listen to humans. Daewon made his decision. We run, but not away. We run toward the second ship's location. If we can get there first, everything changes. The Eternal Vigil powered up. The Council ships immediately opened fire, trying to disable the ancient vessel before it could escape. But the Eternal Vigil's shields held easily. Daewon returned fire, carefully targeting only their weapon systems and engines. He left their life support and crew quarters untouched. Within minutes, all 6 Council ships were drifting helplessly in space, disabled but with all crew members safe. As they jumped away, Daewon looked at his companions. "We just declared war on the entire galactic establishment." "No," Jiwoo said. "We declared independence. There's a difference." The Eternal Vigil streaked toward unknown space, carrying humanity's hope and its greatest danger. Behind them, the galaxy was waking up to a new reality. The weak species had teeth, and nobody knew what they would do next. But Daewon knew one thing for certain. When they found the second Vigil ship, there would be no more running. It would be time to face the future, whatever that might bring. The star system was ancient and forgotten. 3 dead planets orbited a dying red sun. The coordinates had led them here, to the outer edge of explored space where no one had any reason to go. "Are you sure this is right?" Taeyang asked as they approached the 3rd planet. Jiwoo double-checked the translated coordinates. According to the database, the second Vigil ship is hidden in a facility beneath the surface of that planet. The planet had once been alive. The sensors showed evidence of oceans and atmosphere, all lost millions of years ago. Now it was just a lifeless ball of rock and dust. They landed the Eternal Vigil near what appeared to be a massive crater. But as they approached, the ship's systems revealed the truth. It was not a crater. It was an entrance disguised to look natural. The doors opened for them, responding to the Eternal Vigil's presence. Inside was a vast underground hangar, perfectly preserved in the airless environment. And there, waiting in the darkness, was the second Vigil ship. It looked similar to the Eternal Vigil, but with different markings. Where Daewon's ship had symbols suggesting protection and vigilance, this one bore symbols of justice and balance. "It's beautiful," Jiwoo whispered. They spent 2 days preparing the second ship. The AI was dormant but intact. When Jiwoo sat in the command chair, it recognized her genetic signature just as the Eternal Vigil had recognized Daewon. The ship woke up, its systems coming online after thousands of years of sleep. Jiwoo named it the Eternal Balance. 2 Vigil ships, Taeyang said as they prepared to leave. "This changes everything." They were right. But they had no idea how much was about to change. When they emerged from the dead system, they found themselves facing a fleet. Not just any fleet, this was the largest military gathering in modern galactic history. Over 300 warships from 6 different empires, all united with one purpose: to eliminate the human threat. The Krithari Empire led the fleet, but they were joined by the Telvari Confederacy, the Orion Assembly, the Centauri Republic, the Andromeda Coalition, and the Vega Dominion. Every major power in the galaxy had sent ships, and they were all heading toward Earth. "Oh no," Hyojin breathed. "They're going to attack our homeworld." Daewon felt ice in his stomach. The ultimatum had expired. Earth had refused to surrender him, so now the great powers were going to make an example of humanity. "We need to get there first," he said. Both Vigil ships jumped to faster-than-light speed, racing toward Earth. They arrived just as the fleet was taking position around the planet. Thousands of Earth defense ships, tiny compared to the alien vessels, were forming a desperate protective line. "This is Eternal Vigil to Earth Defense Command," Daewon broadcast. "We're here, Daewon." Commander Bora's voice came through, shocked. "You can't be here. There's too many of them. We're not running anymore." A transmission came from the Coalition fleet. A Krithari admiral appeared on the screen, his reptilian features twisted in anger. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. You have brought this upon your people. Surrender now, and we may show mercy." Daewon looked at Jiwoo on the parallel communication channel. She nodded. They had discussed this possibility. Now it was time to put their plan into action. "This is Daewon, commander of the Eternal Vigil, and Jiwoo, commander of the Eternal Balance," he said, broadcasting on all frequencies. "We address not just this fleet, but the entire galaxy. We have discovered the truth about the Inheritor civilization. We have learned from their mistakes, and we offer you a choice." He displayed the historical records for everyone to see. The rise and fall of the Inheritors, the Civil War, the destruction. The final decision to hide the Vigil ships and hope that a wiser species would find them. "The Inheritors had ultimate power," Daewon continued, "but they used it for war. They destroyed themselves. We will not make the same mistake." "Empty words," the Krithari admiral spat. "You are outnumbered 300 to 2. Surrender or be destroyed." "We could destroy you," Jiwoo said calmly. "The Vigil ships have that capability. But we choose not to. Instead, we will demonstrate. She targeted an uninhabited moon orbiting a nearby gas giant, a barren rock with no life, no resources, no value. The eternal balance fired. The beam was not like the one they had used before. This was different, controlled, precise. The moon did not explode. It did not vaporize. Instead, it came apart in perfect geometric pieces like a puzzle being gently disassembled. Each piece drifted away slowly, held in place by carefully calculated gravitational fields. The entire fleet watched in silence as the moon was peacefully dismantled. Then, with another pulse of energy, the pieces reassembled themselves back into a moon, completely unharmed. "We have the power to destroy," Day One said, "but we also have the power to build, to protect, to heal. That is what the Vigil ships were meant for. That is what we choose to use them for." "A trick," the Admiral said, but his voice was uncertain now. "No trick," Day One replied. "A demonstration. We could dismantle every ship in your fleet just as easily. We could take apart your weapons, your engines, your life support, and leave your crews floating in space. But we won't, because unlike you, we don't want war." He paused, letting that sink in. "Humanity has been treated as inferior since we joined the galactic community. You have taken our resources, denied us territory, ignored our voices in council, and now you come to our homeworld with an army, threatening to attack us because we dared to find something that makes us equal to you. You are not equal," the Admiral snarled. "Watch," Jiwoo said. Both Vigil ships moved. They were suddenly in the middle of the Coalition fleet, weaving between the warships at impossible speeds. Energy pulses lanced out from them, not destroying but disabling. Weapon systems went offline. Shield generators shut down. Engine cores deactivated safely. In less than 5 minutes, the entire Coalition fleet was helpless. "We have disabled your fleet without harming a single crew member," Daewon said. "We could have killed everyone. But we chose not to. That is the difference between power used wisely and power used for destruction." A new voice entered the transmission, old and measured. "This is Grandmaster Thelkar of the Neutral Arbitration Council. I have been observing these events with great interest." Thelkar was legendary. He was one of the oldest beings in the galaxy, a member of a species that had given up technology centuries ago to pursue wisdom and philosophy. When he spoke, people listened. "The humans have shown remarkable restraint," Thelkar continued. "They possess weapons that could destroy worlds, yet they choose to disable rather than kill. They could demand subjugation, yet they ask only for equality. This is wisdom that many older species have not achieved." "They are dangerous," the Krithari Admiral protested. "All power is dangerous," Thelkar replied. "The question is who can be trusted to use it wisely. These humans have passed a test that the inheritors failed. They have chosen peace when they could have chosen war." Slowly, other voices joined in. Commanders from the other empires. Some agreed with Thelkar. Others were still hostile. But the tone was changing. Finally, a transmission came from Earth. President Yunji appeared on the screen. She was young for a world leader, chosen for her diplomatic skills. "Daewon Jiwoo, on behalf of humanity, I thank you for your protection. But this decision affects all of us. What do you propose we do now?" Daewon had been thinking about this moment for weeks. "We propose a new treaty. Humanity receives full sovereign status in the galactic community. We get a permanent seat on the ruling council. Our territory and resources are respected. In exchange, the Vigil ships become peacekeepers, not weapons of war. We will use them to protect all species from existential threats, not to conquer or dominate." "And if we refuse?" the Krithari Admiral asked. "Then you get your ships back online, you leave our space, and we never speak again. But know that if you attack Earth, you attack the guardians of the Vigil vessels, and we will defend our homeworld with everything we have." The threat was clear. The Coalition could walk away with their pride bruised but their ships intact. Or they could press the attack and face weapons they had no defense against. The negotiation took 3 days. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Arguments raged. Some empires wanted to reject humanity's demands. Others saw the wisdom in accepting the new reality. In the end, Grandmaster Thelkar's voice proved decisive. The treaty was approved by a narrow margin. Humanity received sovereign status. Earth got its council seat. The Vigil ships were recognized as legitimate peacekeeping vessels, not illegal weapons. The price was high. Daewon and Jiwoo had to agree to strict protocols for using the ships. They could not use them for conquest or expansion. They could not threaten other species without Galactic Council approval, and every use of the Vigil weapons would be reviewed by a board that included both human and alien representatives. But it was enough. After 200 years of being treated as the galaxy's children, humanity had finally earned its place at the table. 6 months later, Day One stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigil, watching over a joint human-alien research station. The station was studying precursor technology, searching for knowledge that could benefit all species. Hyo-Jin ran the research division. Taeyang commanded the Earth Defense Forces, using lessons learned from the Vigil ships to improve human military technology.